welcome to Lately Coffee with Mary. I am Mary, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. I wanted to talk to you about what people have been talking to me about lately. A lot of people have been asking me, or moms have been asking me, what homeschooling really looks like in our home, because I talked about it maybe like a month or two ago. I don't remember when it was, but you can check that posting where I spoke about homeschooling before. And they just had some follow-up questions, and other moms that I know that are interested in homeschooling are like, okay, but like, you have 4 kids. What are you doing with those other 2 that you're not homeschooling? Like, how do you get anything done? And so one mom actually wrote out some questions that I thought were really good, and they're the same kind of questions that I had going into homeschooling. And so if you don't have any friends that homeschool right now, but you're interested, then I would love to be that friend for you, to tell you all the things that I have gathered from all the moms that I know that are homeschooling, because when I began my journey, I really didn't have many friends that did it. And so I was clueless. I really didn't have a resource of someone to tell me what it actually looked like and how you could lay out your day, and what scheduling versus routines looked like. And so I'm going to tell you the things that I've learned the hard way. I do have 4 children, and the oldest is 8, and she's been homeschooled the whole time. So I'll kind of walk you through what it looked like when she was little to what that kind of looks like now as we have youngers, little tiny ones in the house running around. So what I wanted to share with you is just the idea, if you have children and you've been around children, then you know that they don't stick to a schedule. Like, they really don't, as much as they need it, which we all do need to have structure and like know what's coming and have things that are common and similar every day. It's really hard for you to like keep them in a really strict structure. And so just learning to be flexible is probably the best thing that we learn as moms, which if you are a mom, you learn that very quickly, like from birth. Like, they're nursing and they're sleeping and all of those things are just very erratic. Every day is a new thing and you don't know what's going to happen. And so that's kind of similar to homeschooling. It's different. I used to be a first grade teacher, and so it was really easy for me to schedule my first grade classroom. I mean, I could have it down to the minute what we were doing, what every kid was doing, all the rotations that they were doing. And I could do that because the only hat I was wearing was teacher the whole day. I didn't have to be the principal. I didn't have to be the nurse. I didn't have to be the cafeteria worker. I didn't have to be the cook. I didn't have to be the chauffeur. I didn't have to be all the other things that we're doing as a mother every day. And so it does look a little different in your home, and that was a tricky adjustment initially, because I was trying to set up a classroom setting in my home when I still had other things I needed to accomplish during the day. So what I've learned over the last however many years I've been homeschooling is flexibility, and then to also plan out a loose like format for our day. And I won't call it a schedule, but more of like a, what is the word? Not a schedule, but like just a flow for your day. And so as you go through your day, think about the things that have to happen and what time those things have to happen, and block them off. And then the time in between, you kind of block into like 30-minute increments, knowing full well that there's going to be interruptions and there's going to be things that come up unexpectedly, because that's really the only thing that we can expect every day, is that there's going to be the unexpected. There's going to be interruptions. And so if you plan your day knowing that if I give myself 30 minutes to do math, then I'll actually probably only do it for 15 minutes, because someone's going to call me, I'll have to change a diaper, somebody's going to spill their milk. And so you kind of like fit that into your day, because you just know that it's not going to actually take that amount of time. And the first couple years that I started homeschooling, I would imagine that it, like if they said in a curriculum, like it'll take 45 minutes to do this, that's all that I would allot. And then I'd get really behind and frustrated because I wasn't able to accomplish it in that amount of time. So just giving yourself grace is really helpful. And that's not something that I just learned, but tons of moms know. And it's also in this book that I'm going to be kind of referencing throughout this. And it's the Teaching from Rest, which I mentioned in a previous coffee a while ago as well, but it is such a good book. So if you're considering it all, or if you're already homeschooling, you should really read this book. My friend Jennifer, who told me about it, she reads it every single year, and sometimes multiple times a year, because it's that good. It just really refocuses you and gives you great tools to actually homeschool in a way where you are doing it from rest, you're doing it in a loving manner, and you're doing it in a way that's efficient and effective for your family. And she says in her book, which I'll quote right now, it says that homeschooling is all about relationships, and relationships just aren't efficient. So that's something to remind myself every day, is that I want to be really efficient with my time and with my day, but the heart behind the reason that I homeschool is to be close to my children, to be the greatest influencer in their life. And in order to do that, that takes time, and relationships take time, and building their trust and investing in them and just spending those quality moments with them, that takes time, that takes away from all the efficient things that I feel like I should be doing. So it really is this balancing act that can be done, and it can be done in a way that will bless you and your kids, but it is definitely a balancing act. So something that I do to help me, because I am kind of a free-spirited, live-in-the-moment kind of a person, which can lend me to having a lot of fun and enjoying my time with my kids, but then not being really efficient. I do need just a baseline schedule so that I can kind of see what has to happen in the day. So I would recommend that no matter what age your kids are and you're starting homeschooling. If you're just starting with your littlest one, or you're starting with an older one and you have little ones in the home, this will be helpful. So I start my day with a Bible study every morning at 9, which is nice and late. That's one of the blessings of homeschooling, is you can start it whenever you want. So I sleep in typically because I'm kind of a night owl. So 9 gives me like an hour to do my own breakfast, coffee, and my own quiet time before we start the day. And I'm actually trying to like wake myself up earlier as this year progresses. So be praying for me that I actually can wake up earlier, because now that my youngest is like 20 months, I really could wake up earlier. I just didn't really want to because I love sleep, but I'm going to try because I know it's good for me. So anyway, we start at 9 for our Bible study, and then that's about 30 minutes. And I shared all of the curriculum things that we use in a previous video, so I won't go through those again, but if you're interested, you can go back and look at what Bible study we do. And then at 9:30, we'll do language arts. And so what one of the moms asked, that is a great question that a lot of moms want to know, is what do you do to entertain the little ones while you're working with the older ones? And initially, it's easy because they're so tiny that they're just like playing on a mat. You can just set them somewhere and they're like Velcro babies, they don't move. And then as they get a little bit older, you can still contain them and they're happy to be contained, but it's when they're moving and they're all over your house that it can be really challenging. So initially with my girls, when my 2 younger ones were both moving, well, as long as one of them's taking a morning nap, that's always a really good time to do the harder activities with your older kids. But if they're not napping and they're like a toddler age, I'd say, some of the things that we do that has been helpful, and this is what I've seen tons of moms have done. My mom friends that live in Minnesota that have 5 kids, and they have all different age kids. This is something that they do that I love, and just pretty much any homeschooling mom, you know, they use some sort of system like this where they have little buckets of things, and it's like manipulative. So this is stuff that I use for math, but I can give it to my 2-year-old and they'll be entertained for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, which is about as long as our lessons are supposed to be, about 15 to 20 minutes. So this is a good one where they just take them apart, put them together. Something like this that you might already have around your house is just dominoes. They love these to be their phones. This is what they play with as a phone, or just to set them up, knock them down. Even something like this, the abacus, which is fun to actually do math with, but they like to play with that. That won't entertain them for nearly as long though. This one is good for your kids that are able to recognize letters, because it has letters and it's also magnetic, and then you find the one that it matches. So you try to find the right letter. That one doesn't match, but you'd find the right letter, and this has all of the alphabet. So it takes a really long time. This kept my 3-year-old entertained for like 30 minutes and really great. They're learning, they're doing recognition of their letters, and gives you time to do work with the older kids. So that's a good one. And then something like this is just really fun. It can be messy, so I would do this if they were close by, but it's that like sand that kind of sticks together. So that's really fun to do. And again, I would keep that nearby, because if they're really little, they'll eat it or they'll just throw it everywhere, and then you have a bigger mess on your hands. But they like to do that. Play-Doh. A lot of moms that I was just talking to moms about this recently, and they said Play-Doh was their go-to for their little ones. But I tried this like 2 days ago, and it was a disaster. There was Play-Doh everywhere, and just a huge mess. But it did keep them entertained, so I can see why they're like, yeah, it really works, because they'll stay there for so long playing with it, and it's just creative fun. So it's good, but you may want to have a lot of Play-Doh or make your own Play-Doh so that you can just kind of throw away all the stuff that lands on the floor, or put it all in a tarp. That's what they were saying they did, just put in a tarp and put it away. But things that they're nearby and they can play with while you're working with another kid. Stamps, and these are fun. These are like the little dot things. they can also be messy, but it's a good thing to keep them entertained for just a little bit. So anything like that is good. And then also just letting them play, like literally giving them time where you're not telling them what to do. Like that's what kids need more than anything that we don't give them. We're very much wanting to structure their times, that they're not playing or that they're not doing schoolwork. And what's interesting is the most literate country in the world is Finland, and they don't start any formal education until the age of 7, and they really just allow their kids to be kids and to just play. And studies are showing that that is way better for kids' brains and their minds to not have directed play, but to have free play, because they can be so creative. They can come up with all of the things on their own, and they really learn by movement and by like big motor skills, fine motor skills, like just anything that they can do on their own is so great. You definitely have to sometimes give them ideas, like maybe you could play with this, or maybe you should play in this room. And I was just telling a mom that recently because she has little ones. She has like a 2-year-old, I want to say, and she feels like her day, it just feels like the whole house is a disaster because everything's getting torn up and the kid wants to play with everything, which is great. He's playing with everything, but it feels really unorganized and chaotic while she's home. And she's thinking, how on earth am I going to homeschool this kid that's just running around crazy in her home? And I remember when I first started, when I had my oldest and she was only 6 months. Hold on, I'm going to drink some of my drink. I hope you have a drink, that you're drinking coffee or tea with me. I have a tickle in my throat. Anyway, so I would have organized time during the day, but it would be like they can do whatever they want, but during this block of time, this 20 minutes, you're going to be in the playroom playing with the blocks. So it gives them, do whatever you want with the blocks, but you're just going to be in this area doing that. And that's what most like preschools would do. They kind of have like time frames where you're in a different room or doing a different activity. And so you can do that in your home as well. Have a time where you bring out all the Play-Doh. For these 20 minutes, you get to play with Play-Doh, and then it all gets taken away. And then the next 20 minutes, when the older kids have moved on to math, now you guys are going to play in this room with bubbles. And you can do whatever you want in this room with these bubbles, and you just kind of give them directed play, but less options. So I found that that also helps kids to not have as many options, because I have a ton of toys, but if I have them all out all the time, then they get bored with them and they're not as interested. But if you just leave out a couple or only have a certain thing that they get to play with during school time, like they never get to play with these blocks until we're doing math, then these blocks become like magical blocks and it's their favorite thing, when really they're just blocks. Like there's nothing that great about them, but because they only get them at a certain time, that makes them more exciting. So that helps too, to just have like something, that you only use at a certain time of your day. So then anyway, we move on, we'll do math, we'll do a read aloud, we'll have snack and recess, which is about 40 minutes that we do that, all of those things. And then we move on to math, and then we have like a lunch and recess time. And so in my head, I'm like still in a school like classroom. I still try to make my home a little bit like a classroom, but then it just has to be bigger blocks and be really flexible. Like, yeah, this is math time, but because I had to take that call, we can move it into our lunch time and we can push lunch back. Like you're just constantly navigating your day like that. Like what needs to happen, but it doesn't have to happen in that block. Where if you're in a classroom at a school, you can't show up to lunch late because you didn't finish something. You got to be there when it's your time, or there's going to be other kids. So you do have the freedom to kind of shift your stuff around, but just knowing what you have that day really helps to know what you need to accomplish and move things around to get it done. But then another thing that they talk about in this book that I love is kind of rotating some subjects so that you're not doing it every day. And that's another thing that they do in Finland, the most literate country in the world, is they don't like over teach everything. They're not like quantity over quality. So they do less but better. And I think that Americans, we just want to do more. More is always better. So how much can I cram into my day? Because they need to know everything. They have to learn all the subjects. And I think it's amazing and it's great to expose kids to a lot of different things, but you don't have to expose them to everything every day. You could rotate those things that you're exposing them to so that they're still getting it, but it's not, drinking from a fire hose because it's so much information, which I lend myself towards just wanting to hear all the information. So I give a lot of information and it can just be too much for them. So rotating subjects helps to not have to do so much in a day. So then after lunch, we'll do our CC review, which we're a part of a community. And that was another question that the mom asked me. She said that, are we a part of a community or do we just use their curriculum? Because she had heard a lot of great, it was highly recommended to her to do classical conversations. And I have been doing that the whole time that Layla has been in school, my oldest, and we do love it, and I love the community, and we use the materials and go to the community. And if you have one near you, I highly recommend it. It is a great curriculum. It's very rigorous and just interesting. I just love it. I've learned so much. I've redeemed a lot of my own education by doing the classical model because it's so different from the way we teach and the way I was taught to teach. But anyway, if you don't have that, I would still, if you're planning to homeschool, I would definitely look into some sort of community. And even if it's just you and like 3 other moms that plan to meet weekly, just to have that community for you and for the kids is huge. I do not recommend homeschooling alone and isolated. That would be really bad for you, but also for your kids. Like, we need people. We need to have friends and be able to, do things with them. And so I definitely recommend being a part of a community. And we do love our CC community. So we'll rotate, though, our review, which I haven't been the best about this, but each day I have a different 2 things that we would be reviewing. So we don't review all of CC every single day. We would just do geography and history on Monday. And on Tuesday, we would just do the timeline, or we would just do science and English on one day. So that way we're not trying to drink from the hose again every single day by doing it all. And then we have a rest time. Oh, this is key, moms. If you plan to homeschool, you have got to have a rest time for you and for your kids because you're with each other all day long. So it is just so important for you both to have time where you get to do something that you would like to do or that you need to do maybe around your house, and that the kids can just read or they can play or they do something by themselves, because it's important for us to know how to be by ourselves and be okay. Some personalities do that better than others, and some have to learn how to be alone. And so doing it in smaller chunks is probably better for those. Like my oldest, she really doesn't like being alone or being by herself, so I often let her come by me. If she's supposed to be reading, she can read near me, but still isn't talking with me. She's just in a room where she can see me. Where my second child, she is fine to play by herself for hours, and that isn't a big deal for her at all. So just kind of know your kids and what they need. But I know for me, that makes our day go so much better, and it's just good for me to have time alone to do the things that I need to do. And that's another question that this mom asked me that probably everybody wonders is, when do you have time to do your mom chores, like laundry and cleaning and grocery shopping? And that is the ultimate juggle that all homeschool moms do. And the what I've learned in the past is that I can't plan to do any of it in the morning. Before lunch, I have to just not try to do the dishes or not try to do the laundry or do those things, because then it ends up cutting into all of the subjects that I'm trying to teach. And so if I know in my head I'm gonna do all of this just after lunch or right around lunch, so usually I'll do the dishes while they're doing their recess time, as when I do the dishes, so that I have the clean kitchen but to make lunch. But then I won't try to do laundry. I won't try to look online or do anything until my rest time, because I'll just get distracted. You start looking at something or you start doing the laundry, and then that leads you to need to clean your laundry room, and then you see the floors are dirty, and then you just end up getting lost in all these chores, and you're like, hold on, what are we doing? So it really helps to just not do any of it, at least for me. You might be totally different. You may be able to wake up in the morning and clean your whole house before you school. That's what's the beauty of homeschooling, is it's really up to you. You can pick and decide what works best for you, and really depending on how old your kid is and how much time they need you to be with them. The older they get, they're really much more independent in some ways, where they can just sit and do their math until they need help. Where if it's language arts and writing, then you kind of have to be sitting there the whole time and helping them write. So it really just depends on the subject and your kid. But I found for me, waiting till later after rest time is the best time, because I want my kids to also help me with all those chores. So the burden isn't just on me. So they each have things that they're supposed to be doing every day. And I even broke up my days. On Monday, I do laundry and I dust and I organize. And that's it. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to do those 3 things. And sometimes I don't do any of them. Or I do all of them. Like, actually, I could do one more. Like, it's just a baseline just to give me like parameters of what needs to be done. And then on Wednesday, I do my windows, trash, and vacuum. And Friday, floors and the steel stuff that's in my kitchen and the car. And I have not been very good about keeping this in order, but this is just the stuff that I know needs to be done, and it helps to see that there's a plan for it. Even if I don't do the plan, knowing that there's a plan gives me peace. So you may be totally different, and if you're like super type A, and if you have a list, you have to do it, then maybe don't make a list, because I can have a list and not complete it, and I can still be flexible, where some people, if they have the list, then they feel like a slave to the list, and then it's a really bad thing for them. So just know yourself and know if that's what you would need or not. I need the parameters. I need to see what needs to be done, whether I choose to do it or not. But I do have my kids help me during that time. So about 3 to 4, like an hour, they'll have their chores that they're doing as well. And I'm trying to do my grocery shopping online, which is amazing and helpful if you do like the Walmart or whatever your local grocery store is, to just do it at night and then pick it up on whatever day is easy for you. That's the best way to do the groceries. So it's really up to you and your family, but kind of looking ahead and picking what days of the week everything would work better, knowing what your afternoon schedule is. That time frame from 3 to 4, we're usually home and we're not going anywhere. So that's why I chose that time to be my chore time, because I can actually hopefully accomplish it if I'm here. But then from 4 to 6 is when I'm doing meal prep and when they're just playing. So that's when they just have free play. And then dinner and everything else for the rest of the night. But so hopefully that helps you just to get some parameters of like scheduling. But really, you can do whatever you want. That's just what I'm doing. And we don't always do it to the T, but that's kind of what our day looks like. And another question that a mom had sent me in, which I love this. If you guys have questions, please just send me a private message, or you can text me, whatever way you're able to connect with me. I love to be able to talk with you or to you about something specific that you'd like to know, because that just makes me feel like we're more connected. So one of the other questions she asked was, I work from home 2 days a week, and I'm wondering if I'd be able to homeschool around my work schedule. And she has a sitter and said that she thinks that she'd be willing to help. And I would say absolutely. Like, she totally could help you do the homeschooling. And depending on your kids' ages, there's lots of different things you can do that are even on the computer, where like I know there's a math program where there's like a math teacher that teaches your kid the math. And so everything is on the computer. So that would be a good day for you to do something like that when you're going to be doing your work, or if you have a sitter and you can just walk her through the different things you're going to do that day, and then she can sit with them, like, absolutely, that'd be perfect. And knowing your work schedule, like, you can really even stack your work, so you could do more on one day and then have that day be where you do a play date with somebody, or you go to a co-op. Maybe that's a drop-off co-op day. You could take them somewhere in your town that has, something for them to get together with other kids, or they do a music lesson on that day, do piano lessons. And a lot of places will give you discounts for music lessons if you do it during the day, because there's hardly anybody that wants lessons during the day, and everybody wants them after school hours. So that could be an option too. Like, you really just can schedule your day whatever way you need to, and whatever way works best for your family. So that's another reason that I love homeschooling, is you really can cater it to your family. So you could totally do it even from working from home, just depending on your kid. Like, we have twice a week that we don't do school in our home, because we go somewhere for our Bible study, or we go to our co-op and they're doing school there, but we're not in our home. So there really is so many different ways that you could manage it, I think. And then let me see. I think those were all of her questions. One other thing that I did this year that I think was helpful for me to kind of see the whole overview of my year, because what can happen, depending on what curriculum you use, they want you to be on a certain schedule and to not become a slave to your curriculum, but use it to benefit you. So you don't have to do it exactly the way that they say to do it, but just kind of seeing, oh, there's this many lessons. When would I be done if we did it every week? And so I kind of just mapped out my year. I don't know if you're able to see this. Okay, maybe you can. So of all of the weeks of our year, and I put in days that my husband was going to be off of school, and like when we were going to have breaks, and when we were going to have no CC or any of those things. But then something that what is her name? Sarah McKenzie suggested in her book is put every 6 weeks having like a week that's a break to reflect on how things are going. And I love that because it has been really helpful to do that. So I used my year-long planning to add in those every 6 weeks to have a break so that I could look and be like, well, is this math the right math for us? Is this reading program working? What do we need to tweak? How is our after school stuff going? How's it, like, just kind of taking time to look at and reevaluate everything, because you can always change it. That's what's amazing, is you can switch things out. You can switch the order. Maybe doing math first would be better than doing reading first. And because you're with them all day, you know how they are and what would work best for them. And so I've implemented that, and that's been a huge blessing, just to kind of see how everybody's doing and take time to reflect throughout the year. So I hope that this was helpful and that I covered the things that you had questions about. I know I had a lot of questions before I jumped into homeschooling, and so if you still have more, or there's something you want me to clarify, or I don't know, you have ideas that might be beneficial, please share them or reach out to me. I would appreciate it, and I hope that you're having a great day. I'll get my drink again, and I will talk with you soon. Bye-bye.